Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Great Awakening Generator with me, Rose McNair, and Dr. Darag Rennie. Hello,
Hey,
Darag.
bye.
And you're still the same today because, you're still well, aren't you? From when we were speaking earlier.
Yes.
Yes. So today we're
Okay.
talking about learning from pain or joy.
Yeah.
And what choice we're going to make that's going to give us the difference or give us the edge that we need to live.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, it's good.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess people don't realize that they can make that choice because it seems to happen to them. That whole idea of life bringing learnings through the experience of living.
Yes.
And whether it's whether you're learning from pain or from joy seems to happen to you rather than the fact that you might actually have a choice about how to do that.
Yes.
So I think that's a big part of this section is learning that it's always our choice how we experience the learning
Mm-hmm.
and what comes about to bring that learning about. And I was no, what was going to say there. In the past, I still get painful experiences where I learn from,
Yes.
and at the same time. And it's not about making that wrong for me, but it's just a matter of uh, getting through the guilt as why did I really, I know I stuffed up there. I didn't do something I should have done, and then this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And the voice was telling me to do something, and I didn't do it. I didn't listen, and now I've got this to deal with.
Yeah. And we try so hard. We almost like we consciously try to uh, to avoid pain, don't we? We
We
consciously try to
do.
make decisions that we think will ensure we avoid pain. And I know for myself, I get it right most of the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then when I get it wrong, I can be so like, oh my gosh, why? What the heck? What were you thinking? All of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can be tough on myself. I can really reject that I got it wrong. The fact that I'm saying I got it wrong is rejection in itself, right?
Yeah. Well, it's both things. I think it's an acceptance. You have to accept that when you fucked up, you fucked up.
Exactly.
And that was it. I seriously did that, and until you accept it, you can't move away from it. Really.
Absolutely can't
Yeah,
move away from it.
yeah, yeah. And Tony Robbins, I think he was the first one I remember hearing the idea that the two fundamental human motivators are pain and pleasure. And most people are motivated to run away from pain rather than run towards pleasure.
Hmm. Yeah. Run
So
towards pleasure is
yeah,
always
yeah.
good. Hmm.
And there'll be certain things in our life where we're more likely to run towards pleasure, and whereas other things will more run away from pain, like confronting a difficult situation with a friend or a lover. That's you don't do that because you're afraid of the pain is going to be to go through that confrontation. So you avoid it till it gets more painful not to have that conversation.
Wow, we do this all the time, don't we? Like I know for me, I would avoid a conversation or a thing talking about it because I just don't want to hurt that person's feelings. And
Yeah.
then but what am I doing at the time? I'm sacrificing myself and what I think and feel. And then
Mm.
we might go through the same rigmarole or such rigmarole of a situation again. And then it's like, oh, this is happening again. Does this person not get it? And then and then sometimes it's built up to such a point, then you blow up and then they know. And then they know, but not in a way that it could have just been avoided where you blow up. You could have just had a nice, wonderful, loving conversation about it and said, let me stop doing that. Or can you stop, when you do this, this is how I feel. And tell me why you're doing that. Just having a conversation about it, right?
Mm.
Mm. One thing
Yeah.
I want to say, or a couple of things I want to say when you were talking there now, there's things that came up popped into my head. We say life is happening to us.
Yeah.
They say life is happening for us.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like it that life that especially when it comes to the negative things. And I say this because it's to emphasize we don't like it when it's happening like that, because we say it's a bad thing. And I cannot believe life is happening for me. What is this or like I'm gravitating to that? What, are you serious? I'm attracting this to myself. Law of attraction, you bring that thing that you want or you think you're focusing on, right?
Rose, I can't focus at the moment because Sally's calling me. I'm just going to pass it over to Sasha to deal with.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Do you need to go, Darag?
No,
Do you mean
no.
okay?
Anything that Sally needs, I think Sasha can help with.
Okay. Yes, so I was saying yes. I feel like I'm not very, I know that they say life is happening for us. And this is about our journey of evolution and growing as people and the layers coming off and us really coming to the source, which is love, right? We seem to be doing that at the moment, where we're just evolving and we're going through the motions and we're clearing out stuff, the old baggage in terms of emotions and all of that. And what are we getting to? That purity of love, to come to that self-love, to come to the love that is within us, to come to the universal love. But yeah, I go kicking and screaming with life is happening for me. I don't like that. I'm like, no, why? I'm just being bratty here when I say this, but I really think like that. I think, because sometimes stuff can happen that is horrible. It makes no sense and it's prolonged and you think, what? So what about that? I mean, like, and also what about equal value in this thing that might be joyful or fearful? What can you say about that? I mean, because they say give equal value to this thing, because when you create one is better than the other, then you sort of giving less value to one and more value to the one that feels good, obviously. But if you do not have that feeling of fear, you won't recognize on this journey. You need that feeling of what secure feels like, what safe feels like. So, sorry, did I put a conundrum in there?
Oh, no, it's a really good question. And I was just listening to myself and what was coming up. Babaji once said, have no thought for your life or your death. And I think learning to not be attached to life, to not be attached, to not love life and want the best of it, but to not be attached to your life or your death is to not be attached to the results. And
yes,
results are what's coming or not coming. Because
going with the flow.
Either can upset us.
This is true. This is true. I like that answer, because I feel like what we do is we have these expectations. But I mean, a lot of the expectations come from how we've been programmed to expect life. And we've been told life's got to be like this. And if it's not like this, it's actually not going very well for you. Or you're not a success if it goes like that. And so then we think, oh no, we've got to do that, because when we do that, we are showing somebody we have a successful life. And, so we outwardly, we look like we're having a successful life. It's like that man who's got everything in his life, but inside he's lacking love. So outwardly, everybody can see, everyone looks at him and is envying him and whatever about everything he's got, or just saying, wow, this man could want for nothing. He has the best life. But they don't know the state of the inside, do they?
No. And that's what we talked about in the last episode, was really that the recognition of the need for love is a primary thing that we're searching for in life.
Yes.
And it's the love that's beyond conditions, and it's available to us at all times and in all places, no matter what life is looking like or not looking like.
Yes.
And so it's really about, for me, it's when I got that, then all of a sudden the need to not listen and therefore create pain became less. Because when I recognized that the need for love, and that I could trust love, then guilt doesn't weigh the mind down as much.
Mm. Mm.
Because
Yes.
it's when I say that it's the guilty persons, because we feel existentially guilty, that we actually have a need to learn from pain.
Mm. Yep.
Because when there's guilt, there's the need for punishment.
Yeah.
I need to atone for my sins, that idea.
Yeah.
So the guilt here, the more unconsciously guilty we are, the more we'll have experiences in life where we have to learn from pain.
I think you're right. And it's not recognizing the guilt, not recognizing the platform we operate from, because quite often we will feel we will take an action because, oh, I feel guilty, I should probably do that, right?
Mm,
And then thinking, okay, why is it still going wrong? Well, because maybe that didn't come from a place of power and love or empowerment with love. It came from guilt. And so that can't actually take us down a good track, can it? Because we're not
mm.
actually doing it from the heart.
No, no. And it's really hard to clear up a relationship where you feel like you've upset someone when you're coming from a point of view that was your problem, you caused it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yes, you may have caused it, but to feel guilty about it just makes it worse. And so
Mm.
it's only when you recognize that fundamental innocence, uh, and you realize you made a mistake, that you can actually approach the other person with and learn in a different way.
This is true.
Mm.
How do we go about that? How do we recognize it? What are some of the things we can do to recognize that about ourselves? I mean, we're all doing it. I mean, there isn't any person on the planet that has ever been here that would not have done it,
Yeah.
or is currently there's someone is doing it in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
Okay, so how do we stop? No, well, how do we come through that and start to recognize it more? What do you think are the techniques for that, or the
Well,
tools for it?
I think the primary tool, as always, is paying attention. You mentioned mindfulness in the last section, so that's mindfulness is about paying attention,
Yeah.
and it's paying attention in a way that's non-attached. It's not like you're trying to ferret out, the problem, because the more we look for the problem, uh, we we don't necessarily see the solution.
This is true.
And so, and it's learning to ask better questions like, am I feeling guilty about this? Should I feel guilty about this? And so, because we do need to feel guilt when it's appropriate. That's called contriteness.
Yes.
It's the willingness to admit, yeah, I made a mistake, I'm guilty. But from the point of view, it's easier to admit guilt when you have a handle on being fundamentally innocent. In the big scheme, I'm fundamentally innocent,
Yes.
and so then the next question becomes asked: well, if I could feel innocent about this mistake I just made, how would I approach this situation? What would I say? What would I do?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really asking fundamental questions like that, and so that you can actually move ahead. Because when the more you experience that self forgiveness, then it's easier to listen to what the next step is to be, and whether it's a conversation with someone or something bigger, as you or a step to take, you'll get led in a better direction if you're coming from that perspective of being an innocent being and acknowledging your mistakes, acknowledging when you've done something wrong, feeling the contriteness, so that you can move forward honestly.
Yes, and I think being real, owning it,
Yeah,
and saying, yeah, I did that.
yeah,
I'm sometimes we don't even know why we do the things we do. And sometimes we don't want to admit why we're doing the things we do, because it shows a side of us that we feel, oh, this is terrible. I was really being mean, for example, and I didn't care, and I just wanted to be mean. I didn't think about that, because we've been told to have these thoughts. We've been, it's not good. They're low vibrational, but sometimes it's important to accept that we do have low, well, not sometimes, I think always. We must be easy with ourselves and say, yeah, I will think like that. I will think in a low vibrational, I will think a low vibrational thought or feeling or whatever. But I'm willing to love and accept myself,
Mm.
that's where I'm at. I'm thinking about the tapping techniques we do, because that's important. Loving and accepting yourself, that's where you are. That's how you feel, being real, being honest about it. And because that's the best way forward, isn't it? It's the best platform to take off then to, okay, how will I be in the future?
Yeah, and I have a challenge with the idea of putting yourself in a box of, oh, I'm having a negative feeling or a low vibration here.
Yeah.
The truth is, we're having feelings and we're experiencing things, and those things can either lead us to our needs, or we can avoid the need.
Yeah. I like
So
that you said that.
yeah,
That,
so
yeah. Go on.
yeah, so the more we don't judge ourselves for having a feeling, and don't prejudge the feeling as being positive or negative, but just acknowledge that it's just simply a feeling, and it's the key to moving through the feeling is to clarify the need that the feeling represents.
Mm. Yeah.
And I notice when I do that, I experience a certain level of calmness that wasn't there before.
That's a beautiful technique there you just explained, because I think it's true. Because by calling it low vibrational or high vibrational, we are giving, uh in some ways, for want of a different word, we're giving value to a feeling. And we're just wanting what we're saying here is just, it's a feeling.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's just a feeling, whatever that is, but it's a feeling. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Thank you for that. Thank you for clarifying that. And well, not correcting, but thank you for bringing that through, because I think that's important. I use low vibrational just by the by, but that was a good way to do it. That was a good thing that I said it like that, because it's emphasizing again the value of that. Feelings are all valuable, whatever they are.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what trips a lot of people up is the judgment they have on their feelings or their states. And it's like there's that old saying, calling a spade is actually an okay thing to do.
Yes.
We tend to make the idea of judging a feeling is like judging the spade for being a spade.
Yes.
Well, a spade's good for something, so
Of course.
what is it good for? don't use it for anything else.
Yeah, just dig the ground.
Yeah, you don't nail into a bit of wood with a spade.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's terrible. Just
Yeah,
thinking about it, just even having an image of it.
yeah, and that brings us back to the idea of learning from pain or pleasure. That's partly what we do when we create that. When you're trying to use something like that, you create a painful experience.
Yes. Dari, I want to put a spanner in the works here.
Mhm.
You know how people say, well, learning from pain or joy.
Mhm.
Um, do you think that people, because quite often they say you learn from your mistakes, those terminologies, right? And
Yeah,
I don't necessarily believe all this, but I'm just going to say, or some people say, I learn better. We learn better, not I learn better, but we learn better when it's an experience we deem negative.
Mhm.
So how then do we say we'll learn from the joy? You know,
Mhm.
like, yeah. So do you
Mhm.
think that because it's equal value, I think, right? We just talked about something having, everything
Yeah,
is valuable, right? A
yeah, yeah.
feeling is
Good point.
valuable.
Mhm.
But like, so do you think we need to have um, experiences that we deem negative in order to learn better? Do you think, you know?
I don't think we need them in order to learn better. I think we need them, we may feel like we learn better because we never want to experience that level of pain again. That gets back to the idea of, the primary motivator for most people is to avoid pain.
Yes.
So if you create something that's a painful experience, you never want to do that again, and you feel good that you're not going to do that again because now you've learned it. But that doesn't necessarily say that's the better, just because if your primary motivator is to avoid pain rather than to go for pleasure, then you'll feel like it's a better way for you to learn. But it's just simply a way. It's not a better way.
Okay. I like it. It's coming back to that equal, well, all valuable. It's saying,
Yeah.
well, so that happened and I'm learning from that. That's okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing happens and I'm learning from that. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
That thing that makes me feel really good happened. And I'm okay learning with that. The thing that sometimes I feel not so good about.
Yeah.
Or most of the time I feel not so good about. And it would have been better to find that out a different way.
Yeah.
But that too is valuable. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Whatever it is, it's okay. That's what this is coming back to, isn't it?
Yeah. And you could say, harking back to our last one, it's fresh in my mind because we're just recording this back to back. But that experience of experiencing that deep love of Sally sharing with me when she was pregnant, that was an experience. And it was in getting through the aftermath of what we did or didn't do, and then coming back together again, and then experiencing that love again. See, that's where I was learning from the joy.
Yes.
It's about,
absolutely.
this is love. This is what love feels like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
wow.
that's what I mean by learning from the joy.
Mm.
And I could have said learning from pain or pleasure to go along with Tony Robbins' idea of pain and pleasure as the two primary motivators. But I shifted it to joy because I think that's pleasure is sometimes just a body sense, but joy has a deeper sense to it.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Wow. What else? How can we get to that state? What do you think brings us there?
Well, I'm just reading a line in my book here, so in this chapter, calling learning from pleasure is love's way, learning through pain is ours. So I think the part of us that wants to be a guilty schmuck and hasn't forgiven ourselves yet, that's how you're going to learn.
And that just comes back to the programming, right? The
It
programming
does.
we've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whether it was programming or whether it was that initial decision we made, that whole idea of, that the key thing we're here for is to realize that separation never happened.
Yes. It never happened.
Yeah. It's only in our minds it's happened.
Exactly.
And the whole desire to get back to unity or unity consciousness it speaks to that, and at the same time, it accepts fundamental flaw that we are separate. To be able to get back to something, we have to have left it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
and the journey we're all on is to acknowledge that we actually never left. We just felt like we did.
Yeah. Just an illusion of leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Darag, do you have it's just occurred to me to ask this, is there a practice? I'm trying, I guess what I'm wanting to ask is, how do you cross over the threshold from not, not viewing it like the way we've been talking about, to viewing it this way as a way of better form, living better? Well, no, not better, but living in a way that is wholesome and holistic, and saying, choosing to live from that platform of both these have the same, but all feelings are feelings. They're not, one is better than the other. And that I'm going to operate from that perspective of whatever comes, I'm going to go and flow with it. What can a person do? Is there a practice we do? Is there a, oh my goodness, you've been so loved up.
Get a puppy.
I agree. Get a puppy. I agree. Look at the puppies also coming there to tell us this. Get me, get me. Oh,
Um, well, isn't that what we've been talking about all along? Really, it's just about recognizing that we have to choose. That we have been, like Viktor Frankl said in his book that he wrote. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist that ended up in a concentration camp,
okay.
and he said that everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, and the last of the human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way.
Mm-hmm.
So it really comes down to realizing we have freedom of choice,
Yes.
and the fact that if we're not feeling good, it's actually a choice of ours.
Yes.
Um,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
it's playing with that enough so that you have enough experience of feeling really bad or grumpy, and then figuring out what your needs are, and then moving through to either get them met or no, you can't get them met in this situation, but at least you know you have them, and that's what's important to you.
Mm. Mm.
And
Yes.
it's doing that just enough um, to know that you can do that. You know, it's like having an experience that confirms itself that, oh, that, so if I do that, then this happens. You know, if I don't do that, this happens. It's like, um, have you heard of it? There was a channel called Lazarus that was around in the 70s, I think.
No, haven't heard of it.
And one of the statements he said was, the key is to love someone enough. No, to love yourself enough to love someone else more.
Mm.
So,
Well,
so you don't have to get it perfectly, but if you love yourself enough and give yourself an experience of loving, then you can transfer that to another being
yeah.
and, and love them more. So the idea isn't to be loved enough to love someone else, but to actually love yourself enough to love someone else more.
Mm. Yes.
And then realizing the importance of that, um, choosing that that's what your life is going to be. Because I guess in a fundamental sense, it's realizing, it's making the choice. Because we don't really, in a sense, unless you've had a real near-death experience where you've experienced something where you can say, "Whoa, I died and I had this
Yes.
experience." Uh, until we do die, all this is a story.
This is true.
Yeah, we don't know what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Like, all of our beliefs might be just complete fantasy.
Exactly.
But it's like,
Exactly.
I guess it's a sense that we can choose which fantasy we want to be real. And
I
it's
think
coming
that's
back.
the power. That's
Yeah,
the power, is to
yeah,
be able to choose. I like that. I hear it. I heard it. The penny
yeah,
dropped.
yeah. And that's so that in terms of a process or anything we can do, it is about making a choice.
Yeah. It's about making a choice. It's like just boots reminds me of that. Like you said, oh, get a dog. Here's one way that you can have love flourishing in your life all the time. Get a dog. I'm not,
Yeah.
and if you're not ready for a dog, don't get a dog. Anybody listening or watching, but it's like they pets just tend to have this tendency to, even if you think I don't want to love you, they will get under your skin. Like I remember when we got the cat years ago, and I said to my daughter, I'm not into cats. So I'm here to do all the practical things like make sure it's fed and make sure that its vet bills are paid. The rest is yours. Do you think that cat left me alone? It did not. And then before you knew it, I was more in love with him than anything else.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that, then it was just amazing how he managed to, oh, he wanted my blankie. He didn't want anybody else's blankie. And so in the end, he got my blankie. And I was like, I gave up my blankie for him because I started to fall in love with him so much. So it's things like that. And I mean, we and also being real about it. And you're a person who likes pets and animals. We are crazy people. We
Mhm.
we just periodically you'll find that we do stuff that nobody else, people will observe us and think, what's wrong with that person? Like, nobody else does that. But we just are that way. But the thing is, it's another mechanism of love. Having a pet, not a mechanism, what's the word? It's another way that you choose to bring love into your life and choose to see it in your face every day. You can't miss it, you know? So I feel like we get to choose, and we get to choose the ways in which we will live and how we will have expressions of love around us. And it's not forcing it. It's just saying I'm being, because I'm choosing to have positive, good things. I'm already giving connotations of positive, good things. I'm not conscious, but I'm choosing to have things that bring me joy and make me laugh and make me smile, even when I'm not feeling like I want to smile. And I'm being generic and saying, oh, I'm choosing to bring those things that have that kind of response from me. I don't know. It's one way, I guess.
Yeah, and that's, I think a lot of people don't allow themselves to experience joy, or at least be seen to be experiencing joy.
Yeah,
It's like,
not allowed. You shouldn't be showing that. You like that.
yeah. What's wrong? What are you smiling about?
Yeah. Have you ever heard people say that? Yeah, like, what are you smiling about? Well, I'm smiling about something. I'm smiling about that date I had with that guy last night,
Yeah.
you know,
And so
yeah.
to be seen to be in joy is, humanity has a big thing where you're supposed to be seen to be out there working hard for things.
And that's the only way forward. Well, no,
Yeah.
we have to realize it isn't.
Yeah. And letting that be seen, so joy becomes a daily event.
Yes, like your life.
Mm.
Like, I just like being alive. I like what I'm doing. And you watch other people do it, right? I've seen people who do this. It comes so easy. And because I'm so programmed about things, or I have a notion of things like, oh my gosh, how do they get that right? How do they take those things for granted? I want to be more like that.
Yeah.
It's important to be like that.
Mm.
To take good things in your life for granted, and not as if it's a thing you only get at Christmas. Every
Yeah.
day should be joyful,
Yeah.
irrespective of what is happening. Everything in your world should be joyful, irrespective of what is happening. Yeah.
Well, sometimes things aren't joyful. Sometimes things are miserable.
Yes.
But joy can come. Won't be that far away.
No, it won't be. It won't be. And whilst things can be tough and all of that, we know. I think joy should be the foundation we live with, or that's what we that's what we should be focusing more on. And again, I'm trying not to be programming people, but if it's happiness that you want, then we know where they say where your attention, you get wherever your attention goes, the energy flows wherever your attention goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can just live and be and say, well, yeah, life is supposed to be joyful, you don't even probably have to do anything deliberately to make it joyful. Just maybe it's the sense of it, the energy of it, the essence of it, the vibration you have about it, all of that.
Yeah. Because nothing has to happen for us to feel joy.
Yes.
Yeah. If we're only experiencing joy because of something that's happening, then it might be more of an attachment.
Yeah.
Than actually a true joy. And it's like nothing has to happen. We can't drag love out of life.
Yes.
We either experience it or we don't. And just the same thing with joy. And I like the Course has this trilogy. The idea, Course in Miracles has this idea that love, peace, and joy come together. They don't come separately.
I'm so agreeing with that.
Yeah, and so because often some people experience joy when they get revenge on someone.
That's question mark, right?
Yeah, that's questionable. So that's joy that comes without the love and the peace with it.
That's right.
So it's about that Trinity coming together, and you don't have to do anything for that.
You can, yeah, we already have it. It's inherently in us.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
we can keep it out. We can definitely do that.
Yes.
And so that's the piece we need to stop, is keeping that out.
Yeah. And it's when we say it's inherently in us, or we have it inherently, we have it. I think more and more we have to come to that realization, because this is why we have to do so much work at having joy, like, or love, putting loving things around you, remind you of love, all of that, because we have forgotten that it's there inherently. We've forgotten what we've come with.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, is to start realizing it's here. And whilst, yes, we do, many times we have done things to bring the joy in, because we need to remind ourselves. But now start to wear the jacket. Now start to have the drink it in, because it's there. Or realize that the joy juice is there. It's not gone or anything. It's we came with it. So
yeah, and sharing and letting other people see your that experience is happening inside you. That's how you get to, it's in the giving that you have.
yes.
So it's not about hiding it, because I think people are afraid to show people how happy they are.
In case it gets jinxed. In case it gets jinxed or something, Yeah. It's like, oh no. And why should you see that I'm happy? Well, oh, maybe because your happiness, if somebody sees your happiness, it'll become infectious, and other people will feel happy too. Because you get some people that are always happy, and they just make you happy by being happy. They always have a joyful stance, and you're like, oh wow. But no, often we'll say, what does that person have that I don't understand? They have joy. So, Darag, what else do you want to say about this topic that I haven't asked you yet?
What was the topic? Learning from, well, I think we covered the learning. It is about choosing, and it is about knowing that sometimes we will just automatically learn from pain.
Yes.
And the more we don't listen to ourselves and what's going on inside, and that guidance that wants to come through, the more we'll have to learn from pain.
I think you're right. Because then we pay attention, don't we, when it's painful?
Yeah. And then the other option is to learn from joy, and they're both valid.
Yes.
So it's not like one's better than the other. It's just that there's a shift that happens where there's becomes more preponderance to learn from joy rather than from pain.
Yes.
And partly that's because pain is just painful.
Yeah, this is true. And
you don't want to do that.
And it has that effect of scarring you for a while, and some people never get over it, and and then we have all that story.
Yeah.
And we still live in the past because it happened 10 years ago, but we're still like, I don't do that because that happened to me then, and I'm not going to do it again. And it's like, oh, stop living in the past, live in the now. That's the important thing.
Yeah, and the now is what our experience feels like.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's paying attention to that experience, and then learning that we can choose to shift that attention and how we're dealing with things.
Yes. Indeed. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say? Have I covered everything in asking the questions?
I think so, because it's a short chapter in the book.
Yes.
And it's just beginning to wrap the book up, but it's just that whole process of knowing that even if it doesn't feel like it, we're always free to choose a different path.
Yes, indeed.
And it's up to us to learn that we have the ability to make that choice.
Yes.
To not feel like we've got to make life a repetition of the past, or to feel like our life can't be what we had. I mean, it won't be what it might have been if we hadn't made different choices. But at the same time, that doesn't mean to say it can't be any good.
That's true. That is
'cause
absolutely true.
some people give up on life at a certain point. Oh, I've done it now.
Yes. And there's a lot of that giving up on life right now. And I feel like it's such a transformational time. And some people are meant to leave the planet, for example, and give up on life in that sense.
Mhm.
Some people are meant to go through this feeling of I'm giving up on life and then learn from that process. And again, I sound very programmed when I'm saying that, but it seems like that's what we as a collective are taking forward. And what you're just saying now makes me think there's probably another way to do that,
Mm.
other than thinking I'm supposed to do that, or I'm supposed to learn like that, or I'm supposed to transform like that. Where is that coming from when we think those things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if this is inherent, the joy is inherent and we can learn from it,
Mhm.
then we probably didn't have to go through any of this stuff. There didn't have to be any reasons for it. Just be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you're saying makes me think of the world situation at the moment, where we're faced with the powers that shouldn't be, that want to make life miserable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it all in 15-minute cities, eating bugs.
Yeah.
You know, and getting our credit scores kind of docked if we even have a random thought. It's like that's not a pretty picture. And it's like, well, we can um, um, no matter what comes. um, I'm thinking there of a movie that Vincent Ward did. No matter what comes or something. It's a really great. If anyone hasn't seen it, I highly recommend it.
Okay.
A Kiwi film director I had the pleasure of meeting at one point, and he had Robin Williams acting this guy that died and went to heaven, and it's what that whole experience is like.
Oh wow. I didn't know about that. I must watch it.
What dreams may come.
What
It's a
dreams may come.
gorgeous visual experience, and
Okay.
but no matter what dreams may come in this life, with what's going on with the powers that shouldn't be trying to control the masses, is that if we let them steal our joy, then they've already won.
Exactly. I like that. I
Yeah.
really like that you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about learning to, in the path forward, it's about we can look at the misery of it, or the potential misery of it, or we could look at the present joy of learning to deal with these idiots.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like we need to have a different face on this one, because otherwise the world will just go down the same path it's always gone.
That's right.
And
That's right.
that I think is the biggest part of the Great Awakening at the moment, is
Yeah.
that to us awaken to the fact that it looks like there's a fight on, but it's really, am I going to live my life in joy, or am I going to live it in fear?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, what perspective is that? It looks like there's a fight on, but how much do we give to that? It's important for people to carry on living in joy. That's it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Because yeah, we talked about fear, all of those things, going back to that, because they're all interchangeable. Will we operate from fear? Will we operate from joy? Will we realize that we are the ones that make our lives, not somebody else, not what someone else says? Yeah, it's quite a mixed bag on the planet at the moment, with everything that's going on. Now I'm also finding that
mixed or mixed up.
it's mixed up bag. Or it's just, we've been through so many phases. Like, I'm finding people, for example, are sending me articles that I read 3 years ago. And I've been there, done that. So we're all sort of, okay, so we don't need to know that. But it's like some people are starting to learn that information that I knew 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
And so we've got to remember that, this is it. We are the ones who create our joy. We individually do that. And fear is certainly not part of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And I just question that thing about create our joy. I think it always goes back to the idea that we don't create it; it's there.
It's there. Yes. Yes.
And therefore it's infinitely available to everyone at all times.
Yes. We
And
choose.
it's
I'll say
absolutely,
we choose, not create. We choose. We
yeah.
choose what perspective we're living from. Yeah.
I'm looking like I'm doing weird things with my hands
But the dog's down there.
yeah.
There's the joy. The joy is there. The happiness.
Yeah,
Yes. So Darag, we've covered this topic. Please remind us where people can get in touch with you and where of your website and the book that you've written.
Well, website is just my name, daragrennie.com. So Darag is DARAG RENNIE, daragrennie.com. And the book's available free on the front page. It's just a PDF download, and people can contribute donation if they want to. There's a way to do that in there. And but the main thing for me was just to share my thoughts. And there's this whole idea I have that wisdom should be free.
I like that.
Because ultimately we're teaching ourselves.
That's right. Exactly.
And I trust that what I'm saying, I do my best to say what I believe is true in a way that people will hopefully get it.
Mm-hmm.
I do know there's a lot of conditioning on how we handle emotion and things like that. So I hopefully have been able to break that down to help people see that emotion is just part of the journey. There's nothing bad or good about any particular emotion. It's just that's all the learnings that we need to do. We need to learn how to handle our feelings and not be controlled by them, either from our internal, conditioned responses or by external forces.
That's right. Yeah.
Which we've seen how fear and guilt have been used to drive us into corners.
Yes.
And we need to be awake to the fact that we shouldn't allow our emotions to be manipulated like that.
Yes.
And that our emotion, our experience is up to us. It's up to us to choose whether we're going to experience the love, peace, and joy that's within, or if we're just going to make life a living hell.
Yes.
And I think maybe I'll read this quote from my book. Let's find it. Yes, it's not up to us what we learn. We need to learn the ultimate lesson that separation was never real. But whether we learn that through pain or joy is our choice. And once we learn it is a choice, and guilt no longer has a wicked hold, then choosing to learn through joy turns life more into the experience of heaven than hell.
Beautiful. Nice. Very nice. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a couple of episodes more to go in terms of the book. And we'll catch you next time here on the Great Awakening Generator. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.